All right, people. So, our first and only review of the day is going to be for Green Lantern 2011 there. This was the live action adaptation of Green Lantern here, where you had Hal Jordan, who was played by Ryan Reynolds there. People know Ryan Reynolds now. He's the Deadpool guy. He's one of those actors that's had multiple chances to play superheroes. He played Wade Wilson first in X-Men Origins Wolverine, and then he played him again later in the 2016 Deadpool movie, which just was 5 years after this there. And man, he needed that Deadpool movie because his career was on the skis a little bit.
We even got to see time travel go back and then kill him before accepting this film.
Yeah, I mean, he's like, yeah, man, it was kind of nothing was really working out, but Deadpool hit there, and I mean, by the help of him too, because he leaked the trailer for that, and people loved it, and it was like, hey, we want this, and forced the studio to back it and come out. So yeah, now people know him as the Deadpool guy. Now he's kind of somewhat in the MCU a little bit there, somewhat. But yeah, but before he had his, after he had his crack actually at Wade Wilson with 2009 X-Men Origins Wolverine, he got a chance to be Hal Jordan. Now, this movie is directed by Martin Campbell. People might know Martin Campbell. He's done really good movies there. He did probably two of the best James Bond films considered. He did GoldenEye and he did Casino Royale. He did that there. And he got tapped to do this movie. Now, he was not the first option. Greg Berlanti was originally attached to it as the writer and director. People might know Greg Berlanti. People might know him. He's the executive producer on a lot of the CW shows there, things like Flash, things like Arrow, a lot of those shows there, the CW verse or the Arrowverse, as I think they called it there, which I watched a lot of those. Sometimes they have their moments there with that. Obviously, sometimes they're restricted by the budget, but they a little have their moments. But what is this movie about? In case people don't know about Green Lantern there, like I said, you have the titular character there and Hal Jordan, who the way it works is gets a ring there, the lantern ring there. And once one person dies, their ring transfers to another person there, and the ring chooses that person. And then the person they choose is this hotshot test pilot by the name of Hal Jordan there. And when he gets this power, he must learn to use it responsibly. I mean, you'll probably know of that. Great power, responsibility in a whole other universe there. But he must learn how to harness it, control it there. And the way the lantern ring is, they have the power of green because green represents willpower. They say that's the color of willpower in this there. But there are obviously evil forces that he must fight there. One of them being Parallax, which is this big threat that's killing a lot of the Green Lantern Corps there, which he eventually meets there.
And the second time in the cinematic history that we've had a very cool comic book villain turned into a cloud for no reason.
Turned into a shit monster there. People saying like literally a shit looking monster.
I guess Galactus did get it kind of easy in comparison.
And then it's actually also this movie has two villains. So you got Parallax, and you also have Peter Sarsgaard, who plays Hector Hammond, who's a scientist there, who is a childhood friend of Hal Jordan there. Another childhood friend, and also a fellow character in the Rogues Gallery of Green Lantern is Carol Ferris, who in this is played by Blake Lively in this, who actually they met. This is how they met. Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds, and eventually would get married.
I guess one thing worked out in their lives from this then.
Sure, yeah. I mean, true love found each other on the set of Green Lantern there. So
they were both picking up smoking editions about back because of the stress of the bad script.
Yeah, which is a famous thing, obviously after this movie's done, I mean, Ryan Reynolds has trashed this movie and he said like, yeah, this wasn't very good. He's made references to the movie and how bad it was there, even in other movies he's done, most notably Deadpool there and this scene right here.
Please don't make the super suit
green. So hold on just a second.
Or animated. And please don't make the super suit green. Or animated.
In that film right there, that was the first Deadpool movie there. So he's made reference to that, and also he said that he had a very contentious relationship with Martin Campbell, like they butted heads a lot. Martin Campbell did not want Ryan Reynolds for Hal Jordan there. There were a lot
of us did really.
Well, I'm gonna get into. I wondered, like, who were some of your thoughts there of his performance there? You being a big Green Lantern fan and knowing a lot about Hal Jordan, but some other considerations. So, who Martin Campbell really wanted was Bradley Cooper. That's who he really wanted for the part.
I can't see that either, to be
Um,
honest.
but a lot of other actors, because like with any superhero role, any kind of guy between the age of 20 to 30 to 40 is going to be considered for this. So some other names that were considered: Michael Fassbender. You also had Henry Cavill, Chris Pine, Sam Worthington, John Hamm, Sebastian Stan, Nathan Fillion, Justin Timberlake, and Jared Leto were also all considered there.
The two that I like, and that in one in particular, I would have said should have been the person to go with, Chris Pine and Nathan Fillion.
Mm.
Those two could pull off Hal Jordan. Nathan Fillion has done the voice work for Hal Jordan a number of times in animated projects, of
Yes, he
some of
is.
the direct-to-DVD animated stuff over the years. For the longest time, he is exactly who I thought should play the character, and then he ended up being Guy, and I thought that it worked great as well. But yeah, Chris Pine would have also been a good shot. And I mean, to be honest, I think Kyle Chandler actually is sort of the something I wouldn't have thought of, but once I heard it, I was like, oh yeah, that does fit. Ryan Reynolds, not even once did I consider that he made sense for this character.
I know he gets considered a lot for Superman. People would love him as like an all-star Superman. What about John Hamm? You think John Hamm would make a good Hal Jordan?
Jordan, I don't know if I could see John Hamm as Hal Jordan. Yeah,
Okay.
I don't think I can.
Okay. What about Michael Fassbender?
Yeah, not him either, honestly.
Okay. But that's who were considered for the role. Also, you had Brian Austin Green there, who he wasn't considered, but he did a whole like online fan campaign to be Green Lantern. He did not even audition for the part, but he tried. He went out there protesting for it there. But yeah, so that's who they originally. Now Blake Lively's character, Carol Ferris. Some other choices for her. You had Eva Green there. People might know Penny Dreadful there. Kerry Russell, Diane Kruger there. Jennifer Garner was also considered there for the role of Carol Ferris. Any of them really?
I'd have gone with either Eva Green or Kerry Russell. Out of those.
Okay. And it's funny because Blake Lively in this movie, we're going to talk about it. I do not really like her in this movie. I think she's so stiff and stilted in this. I don't know why.
If you hadn't said what the name, though, I wouldn't know who you were referring to just based on the description.
But that's kind of the setup here. And you got some kind of cameos in here as well for some other DC characters. And it's clear from this that they are trying to set up a sequel and other, stuff in the DC kind of universe. That's when they were still trying to, one of the multiple attempts to do a whole broadening universe there.
It's a very lazy sequel bait too, when it does get to that at the end.
Yeah. So Green Lantern 2011. What are your thoughts there, Sage?
Man, I've got a lot of thoughts. Why don't I get the few compliments that I can give out of the way first? And they're backhanded a little bit too, but some very good casting choices that are wasted with just not a lot of screen time here. Michael Clark Duncan, phenomenal pick for Kilowog as sort of the boot drill sergeant sort of character here. Tomar Ray is Jeffrey Rush.
Yes.
Also perfect voice casting for that character. I can 100% hear that coming out of that character from the books. And I think Mark Strong, honestly, was a really good pick for Sinestro. But again, they give him so little screen time and they do so little with him. I mean, this movie only has about 5 minutes on Oa at all.
So the most of the Oa stuff is when he initially comes to the planet, trains at the planet for like 10 minutes, 5 minutes. Then he goes back to the planet again to do like the big speech to get them to rally them to help him out save Earth, which they don't do, but which they don't do that, but he does that, and then he goes back again at the end when they do the whole big speech at the end, and it's like, hey, we didn't do shit, but he beat Parallax and for us and everything like that. Well, Sinestro's doing that. But here is a little bit of Michael Clark Duncan as Kilowog. So I do think this is, if you had to say, point out some good scenes in the movie, I think pretty much most of the stuff on Oa is pretty good there, I think. So here is Kilowog.
You smell funny. I smell funny. Yeah, I heard about humans. Think you're the center of the universe. You want to be a lantern? You gotta commit to the core. Alright, Boozer. Let's see what you got.
I always think like, okay, what if that just landed? Like, what if he didn't think of anything that just straight landed, or would that just like crush him there? He just go like, well, I guess he wouldn't cut out to be a lantern then. You had that there, but yeah, I do like the voice casting. I did like Michael Clark Duncan as Kilowog a lot. Jeffrey Rush as Tomar Ray there. That's really great. They fit perfect. And Jeffrey Rush also does the intro for the movie as well to explain the whole kind of lantern core and everything like that. Did you like that intro?
It didn't. Voice work alone may be fine, but the visuals that you're being presented with are so sort of weak looking that it's hard to really give that intro a ton of credit.
So this is like the intro right here. Yeah, so this is kind of what we see a little bit.
Energy of willpower. These immortals, the guardians of the universe, built a world from where they could watch over all of existence. The planet Oa. They divided the universe into 3,600 sectors. A ring powered by the energy of will was sent to every sector to select a
And so far, they're getting pretty much the whole lore right with Green Lantern and everything like that.
Yeah, it's the basics for sure.
Okay, so that's good there.
Together, these 3,600 recruits formed the intergalactic peacekeepers known as the Green Lantern Corps.
Yeah.
Some of the effects there look
very
kind
like
of distracting.
Kind of like you first learn special effects like VFX, Adobe Premiere. Like, let me try this out. So I think that's kind of a decent opening with it, and like I said, Jeffrey Rush, who does the voiceover for that. And speaking about kind of like the broader stuff there, and we just saw the training sequence there as well. How do you think the constructs look, the way the actual powers look in this?
Well, now we're past me having anything nice to say about this film. I think the constructs look awful in this movie. I think they look really, really bad. And look, to be fair, it's probably going to be one of the harder special effects to pull off in live action. Like, it probably does take a little more effort. And even the ones in Superman, though I think look good, still maybe don't look 100% perfect. You know, like maybe they could still maybe get them a little better. But here they look bad, man. It's distracting. The only time that they maybe look slightly more passable is during that training sequence, because so much of what's going on is all CGI that maybe like it doesn't stick out as much from like a real image as it does in other parts of the movie. But especially throughout the majority of it, when you're on Earth, like around a real location or with a room full of people, and then you see the big green fist flying through I mean, it looks like an 80s toy commercial for kids.
Well, speaking about toy commercials, that was kind of seems like one of the big things in this scene right here, where they do the whole racetrack. Where this is his big moment here of like showing off, like, I can be a hero, I can be a Green Lantern there.
Because I love Hot Wheels.
Let's check it out. And then Tomar Ray, he was teaching him about the ring and different elements of it. So like when the ring kind of smoke alarms and beeps there and kind of flashes, that means there's danger. So that's
and that's something I don't know if I remember ever really seeing happen in the comics much.
So maybe they added something there to that. And I like how this dangerous helicopter, and it kills nobody. Like this, is
not one person.
It crashed. I mean, I guess it's a PG-13 movie, but this thing just crashes into this party and kills nobody. If this was Sam Raimi, there'd be a lot more going on there. It's people screaming and everything. Like there'd be a lot more happening.
Well, and that's something about the books too, is they can actually get pretty grotesque and violent. Like they're not always PG-13. Like there's some pretty heavy gore and like horror stuff in Green Lantern comics.
Hot Wheels him. So what kind of constructs does Hal usually come up with there?
Well, so he's an Air Force guy, right? So Hal Jordan, when he does constructs, it's a lot of it is a lot of like planes and big fists or baseball bats, and it is a little bit more basic in sort of the things that he comes up with. So like some sort of racetrack inherently is not a stupid idea to be like, well, maybe we could have him sort of guide a vehicle around because he knows vehicles. I could see where maybe they were thinking with the idea, but again, it comes down to the special effects just being so. And this looked terrible when it came out too. This is not like just looking at it years later and it not holding up. This was an awful effect at the time. It just comes across as so cartoonish and just out of place, and just it doesn't fit into the world of what you're seeing at all.
Yeah. Because, yeah, I mean, I've heard that before. Like different people who wear the ring, the construct they come up with will be different, which I think is very good that they do that to stress the difference between the lanterns. Because I think with like, who's the guy that's the comic book artist?
Kyle Rayner, and he's sort of the last of the four big human Green Lanterns that you'd think of, but he's making dragons and crazy fantasy thing. Like he's a comic book artist, so his imagination is sort of the wildest and the weirdest. Or John Stewart, for example, he's got this sort of architect knowledge, and so when he makes something, you can actually see like every little piece of it for how it would need to function, even though it's a magic thing you're conjuring. You don't need it to have every little realistic piece, but John Stewart will do that with the things he makes. So there are these interesting different visual flares to how they handle the powers that I really love, and I'd love to see translated. This movie certainly does not do it. That's another problem. Even the brief moments you see him training with like Kilowog or whatever, the lantern constructs between him and Sinestro or him and Kilowog, it all looks the same. There's no like personality flair in any of what anyone's making.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, you see that training sequence there, and he's kind of doing little different things there with it. It doesn't seem like you have much kind of originality there with that, but yeah. So I do like in the comics there is kind of that difference in the way people kind of make the constructs, which is kind of cool there, which I don't think they really bring into this movie there. And to speak about Hal Jordan as a character there, I mean his introduction, I told you this, it feels very Chris Evans, Human Torch, ish,
Yes.
where he's got a sports car, and we see him like he's late getting to work, and he's got a woman in his bed, because that's how he's a cool guy. And he's got a woman in his bed from the night before. And he drives the sports car all the way to Ferris Air there because he's got this big presentation going on, and he's got to do this show off for the people that they're like investors for the company, and does that there. So you said you didn't really like Ryan Reynolds as Hal Jordan. What don't you like about Ryan Reynolds?
Well, I feel like a lot of it is he's just kind of feels like he's playing Ryan Reynolds. Like he doesn't really feel like he's adapting into a character much here at all. It just feels like him. Hal Jordan has a bit of a rebellious streak to him, and he will make sort of these very last second choices in the middle of high stress situations that people are telling him not to make. But the sort of, oh, I'm late, oh, I'm hungover, I've got a lady in my bed, like he feels like too much of, again, the Human Torch. It feels like they're like, hey, people like Chris Evans there, that's a relatively recent comic book movie that people were at least mildly happy with. But I don't know, it feels like just a lot of that copying, and he just never steps into it or feels like what the actual thing does.
Okay. And I haven't read a lot of Greenland, so I don't really know frame of reference for that there. But for the character, how exactly he's supposed to be. I mean, I've seen him in animated movies. I've seen that before. My most experience is Jon Stewart watching the Justice League cartoon there and watching that. So most of my kind of experience with the Green Lantern is just Jon Stewart. And yeah, I mean, Ryan Reynolds, I mean, he's doing the Ryan Reynolds thing. He's sarcastic, he's jokey. That's kind of thing there. That's kind of his element there. That's what he does. And obviously people are like, well, you should just be playing Deadpool. And then he went back to playing Deadpool where you could utilize that effectively.
We got there
And
eventually.
we got there eventually. So he did eventually just, do that. And now it's paying off really well there with that. And then the other characters there, do you think they handle their comic book counterparts correctly? Like Blake Lively with Carol Ferris. What do you think about her?
I mean, I say I can't think of anybody that I think really comes off well in here. But yeah, she doesn't. I don't think there's anything interesting or unique about her. She just is sort of a very basic comic book movie girlfriend character. I don't think there's anything really there.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and I've seen Blake Lively be good in things. Like I liked her in Simple Favor. I think she's good in that movie. But here she feels very so stiff and just kind of she's saying her lines very robotic. And I was like, I don't know if this was like maybe her first big thing or you know what I mean, whatever. But that was very awkward to watch. And then like even something like The Town, I think she's good in that. She's in The Town in that. And I think she's very good in that. So I don't know what it could be in this. There was one decent scene I liked of her. I think worked really well. And I think they said that this line was improv'd. This kind of a little bit of dialogue in this scene. I wonder what scene I'm talking about here, but let me play it. Oh, let me go back a little bit.
Evening, ma'am. Didn't get a chance to say goodbye.
He's trying really hard there.
Yeah, no, I'm glad to have a chance to thank you.
Just doing my job. No thanks necessary, miss.
No, it is. You saved my life. You saved all of our lives. That was a very... Hal?
Miss?
Hal? Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god, Hal!
How did you know it was me?
What do you mean? I've known you my whole life. I've seen you naked. You don't think I would recognize you because I can't see your cheekbones?
Yeah, so they said that line was kind of improvised there. I do kind of like that scene because it's kind of like, I mean, I guess it goes into the fan. I mean, you just go with it that people don't know that this little tiny little mask, like how you don't recognize the person. But I thought that was kind of fun that they, kind of broke that down.
It makes sense that she improv'd that.
Yeah. I mean, did you like at least that scene a little bit of her? Or?
I mean, that's good. I can tell that it's improvised and that it's something that she came up with on the spot, and that the movie was not like intentionally producing. So, I mean, I could see where it stands out a little bit.
Then you also had Peter Sarsgaard in this, who's Hector Hammond, where he has like the classic.
And he is hamming it up.
Ta-ching right there. Where you got that kind of going on, where he's the classic kind of villain archetype there, where he's been bullied his whole life, seen as a loser his whole life, even by his father in this, who is played by Tim Robbins in this. And he gets a chance to experiment on Abin Sur, who when he was the person there that got attacked by Parallax, fell to the planet, and then was able to physically hand off the ring to Jordan there, but his body still remained there, and the government picked it up and they called in him to investigate it and experiment on it. And then he gets infected with the Parallax disease, causing him to turn into this monstrous kind of creature there. But yeah, just seeing a little bit of him and kind of just like the sad story and everything like that with him. What were your thoughts on him?
I mean, what I'll give the actor is he's hamming it up, and I think he understands that this is not a great movie, and so he's just kind of being a little ridiculous, and some of that makes me laugh. But as far as like a coherent or actually good character, I don't think even a little bit. This character, first of all, it's Parallax has nothing to do with this character's like why he's all mutated and stuff in the comics, but also like it's sort of a similar effect as MODOK, where like if you look at MODOK in Marvel Comics, it's like kind of grotesque and almost disturbing. He's like gross to look at. It's almost body horror a little bit. Hector Hammond's kind of similar. If you see what he looks like, the way he's drawn on like a comic page, at least, you know, in like 90s 2000s comics for sure, he it's like kind of disturbing, like the way he looks. Like he's this like huge, yeah, it's like there's something wrong with him and he looks deformed. And there's like body horror to that. And in the movie, I mean, he's just got a nutsack for a head.
I mean, kind of turned into Elephant Man a little bit like that. There. Well, in fact, Elephant Man looked better. I think.
I think so.
It had better effects there, but yeah, that's what he kind of just turns into there, and he's maniacal and just laughing and yelling. If he's not laughing, he's just yelling. Then when he starts getting affected there, you have that kind of going on for it. Speaking about, I think his performance, like I said, he knew more what he was in and he had more fun with it, I think, and kind of played into it more. And Peter Skarsgård, good actor. He's a very good actor there. He's been in many good things before. But I don't think it's hard for this material for anybody to really come off really that great.
Yeah.
And then in this movie, I think also one of the issues with it of setting up so many other things kind of going on and trying to branch off. It was kind of one of those cases of these movies where they started to have higher ambitions with superhero movies, where it goes like, okay, we want to add all these Easter eggs and cameos because we're going to do other things later. One of those being Angela Bassett, who comes in, one of the many incarnations of Amanda Waller we would see throughout the years.
Yeah.
With that, before we got Viola Davis. 5 years later, because she was in Suicide Squad. 5 years later there.
Yep.
What did you think about Angela Bassett there and her introduction here as Amanda Waller?
I mean, like as an actress, she's great and all, but horribly miscast. And consistently, this character, for the most part, has been horribly miscast. I think the only time it's been done right has been Viola Davis. Amanda Waller is her nickname is literally The Wall, Amanda the Wall Waller. She's a big lady, and I like Angela Bassett, great actress. You are not a big enough person to play this character. Like, you need to have big broad shoulders, like be a big, like it's just like look like a football player almost. Like you need to have like size, and she just doesn't.
Yeah, a lot of classic black actresses have played Amanda Waller. Angela Bassett, Pam Grier, Viola Davis. And I do think, I mean, no fault of Angela Bassett, but I do think Viola Davis does better in the role just because she's got better material there.
And she just has, she embodies like the physicality of the character well.
Yeah. So I think, she's got to have better meat to kind of chew on there with that. But that, and then she's kind of, I think throughout the movie, she's wearing that one outfit throughout the movie.
I think so, yeah.
Just that one kind of coat type looking thing there with that. I think she's kind of just again another victim of kind of the material there with that. And to speak about one of the villains that you have of this, because a big thing about this movie is the Green Lantern Corps is facing Parallax, and they're afraid of this creature there because it harnesses fear. It's yellow.
Yeah.
So that's a big rivalry there for the Lantern Corps. And I'll show a little bit of that in a minute there. But is that usually like an antagonist of the Green Lantern Corps, Parallax, and the whole yellow kind of?
So so originally there was just a whole story arc in the comics where Hal Jordan just sort of turned evil and he was calling himself Parallax. And then it was a retcon later that sort of was like, okay, but let's turn this into its own thing. But Parallax is like a cool villain, and the guy, like it's like this big translucent energy being. It looks like a real disgusting like bug most of the time. But it does possess people, but it's like some horror movie shit. It will like crawl in people's mouths and like rip their jaws open and like pull their skin off from inside them. And like, it is a violent, like demonic feeling entity. And so it is certainly a big Green Lantern villain. It really sort of comes out of the sort of Jeff Johns era, which was like 2003 or 4 to 2009, I think was when that ended. And it's a great villain. But I mean, it has nothing in common with what's even being presented on screen in this movie.
So I'll show it here. So this is what Parallax looks in the movie, which is another people's big point with this movie, or where it fails, is depicting Parallax here.
That's what happens if the New York City sewer system just backed up, just destroyed the city.
Just a combination of shit and rat kings, just all rats fused together.
Yep. It's like barely yellow, even. Like you.
But yeah, that's what you kind of see. People are talking about, like, it literally just looks like shit tentacles, like kind of just crawling and everything like that. It doesn't really have any distinguishable thing. And I just showed images of Parallax there, and what Parallax.
And like the design of that comic, being looks really cool. It's
like this
cosmic entity,
kind of insect kind of looking creature. Parallax is there with that.
Yeah, it's like a big gross bug. I mean, like there's even when Jeff Johns' comic arc starts, Hal Jordan is like coming back after a long time, and the Green Lantern Corps isn't much of a thing at the moment in the comics, and he's possessed by both Parallax and the Spectre, which is like literally the like right hand of God within the DC universe. And these two entities are like seem to be sort of evenly matched, like trying to rip each other out from inside him. And that thing just does not have even the tiniest bit of intimidation factor.
Even when it, like, the way it kind of sucks people out, it kind of looks like when Parallax kills people, it kind of looks like when Blade kills vampires, where they just turn into kind of.
It does have that effect, doesn't it?
Yeah, like when he sucks people out, their bones kind of just come out of their like bodies and everything like that. Let me see if I can.
I assume they're dying of the smell, to be honest.
And it's this cosmic being that's, they say in the movie, existed over thousands of years and everything like that. But the way he's able to kill him, Parallax, and kind of trick him is kind of like crazy. So
yeah, it doesn't even make sense. And I mean, I don't think you could even fully destroy one of these creatures in the comics. Like, I don't think that's possible. And there's one for every color too. There's like an entity associated with each one. And I think you could trap them or sort of temporarily sort of cage them or something, but I don't think they can even die. They're literally like light energy, emotion being, like God things that, like you can harness their power, but killing them I don't think is even an option.
So this is how he actually kills people here, and we see it on Hector Hammond. We see it there. Yeah, just that skeleton kind of just boom. There you go.
The sound effect of it hitting the ground afterwards is pretty amazing.
Like a Party City type Halloween kind of.
Yeah, like you can hear it clattering like plastic.
But yeah, so that's how Parallax kind of kills people there. We see with that. But yeah, that was a very big disappointment there with that, the way that villain was. But the way he kills him is he lures him to the sun, and so the sun and everything like that. Like, hey, if you want to be able to fly, in the universe, you got to be able to withstand that and kind of hold your own against that. So that's how he kills Parallax, apparently, is by luring him to the sun there, which you think he would know about already.
You think a cosmic entity millions of years old would be aware of the sun?
Yeah. So that was kind of another big issue there. Yeah. I mean, very few things to like about this movie, I would say. You know what I mean? Like I said, I liked some of the voice performances there. The stuff on Oa is decent. I mean, Oa, you don't really see a whole lot of it except for the place where they all talk and congregate. The training, apparently they all train on this little bridge area there. And then the place with the Guardians where you see them, and then that's it. Really, you just kind of see those main things. And it's the thing of like, most of it just takes place on Earth. You don't really see a lot of the, maybe if we got a Green Lantern 2, maybe they would have gone further, doing some more Space Odyssey stuff there with that. How did you think the stuff on all that stuff is represented with like the Guardians and all that stuff like that? Did you think that was?
I mean,
know,
it's better than anything else in the film for sure. I mean, it at least has like a basic look to it that understands like what these things are. But they're also in it so little, and like the effects do look better there because everything's CG, so nothing stands out right against like a real backdrop. So like it looks slightly better there too. But they also just they play so little role in the plot ultimately that it's like again, you're just in there for like maybe what 10 minutes and you're kind of back out again. And so it's like it's all right looking compared to everything else, but I don't feel like it's capturing like the full sort of cosmic magic of what I want that to look like on screen.
Mm. And the Guardians, maybe you can shed more light on this. It seems like my thinking of it, it's the way how this movie presents it is that the Guardians are kind of a shady group of people. Like they kind of keep things a lot from the Lantern Corps, which leads Sinestro, who people don't know in the Green Lantern comic, goes on to be a big rival of Hal Jordan there. Eventually, and I'll show the teaser there at the end that they do at the Stinger, setting up a sequel potentially that this movie never got. But is that how kind of they mostly are in the comics there?
Yeah, there's Ganthet is sort of the one that is sort of more moral or like actually will like help out or reveal more information. There's one other, I forget her name. But outside of those two, the Guardians are shady. They are shady. I mean, even at one point in the Jeff Johns run of the comics, they even sort of kind of become the main villains at one point.
Interesting. Okay. And I think well, you have Sinestro who's pleading to the Guardians, like, we got to do something, we got to take action in there, and they're just kind of going like, no, I mean, not really. I mean, you're kind of on your own, and there's nothing we can really kind of do with this there.
Well, and in the comics, there's actually like a genocide that like happens on his home world that the Lantern Corps won't interfere with, and he gets like imprisoned for trying to do something about it.
Okay. Why won't they do something about it?
They just don't deem it as a threat to the universe, so they're just like, we're not engaging in this sort of like, to them, low scale conflict.
So what kind of counts on that? Because if every sector is lanterns assigned to it, does that mean like, okay, if there's any big issue, they are the only ones that can deal with it mainly, or they can't really ask for the help for the lanterns, or
no? So that planet, right, is in Sinestro's sector, and it's not that it's wrong for him to do something about it. It's that they're not allowed to use lethal force, which is what he's trying to do to solve the problem.
Gotcha. Okay. So lanterns are forbidden from killing or anything like that.
Typically, although that is itself this, a great comic book where kind of Sinestro forms the Yellow Lantern Corps for the first time, and that the first time that happens, and there's a huge battle between both groups, it sort of turns out that his big motivation was in trying to force the Guardian's hand into changing that rule. So like during this giant war that's happening, they do enact this new rule of lethal force being allowed. And it's sort of Sinestro's end goal of this big conflict.
Ah, okay. Interesting. So this is the big moment, post-credit scene that we see here of where Sinestro turns evil here.
There's no sense of like where he is, right? Either.
Just space.
Just space.
That reminds me of like when Thanos put on the stone, he's just charging up, just juicing up.
It does look similar to that. Because it's not like an immediate byproduct of Parallax, the yellow ring in the comics. He originally goes to like a different universe entirely, like an antimatter universe with a planet called Quard, where these like very particular blacksmiths like make this thing. Here, where did he get that? I don't know.
Seems like he's forging it in this thing or this big kind of lantern thing. He's like forging it.
He's making it in a screensaver.
Yeah. There, like, so he's doing something there. I don't know. Is that the thing that when the lanterns, is there like a specific thing that makes their rings, like they put it into or something that spits them out? They put in the quarter and they turn it and gumball.
Definitely not like that.
Okay. Yeah. So I don't know if there's like a specific way the rings are made or anything like that. And
They're like forged by the Guardians.
okay, they're forged by the gun. Gotcha. Okay. And is there any other? Well, I guess so because there's already lanterns with different colored rings. So there's other ways they can
Yeah,
ring.
yeah. I mean, in theory, it's not that Sinestro couldn't make the ring. I guess it's just that like it's when it happens in the comics, it's sort of like, oh, this is the first of its kind. How do we even harness this energy? And he has to go to like a different world entirely, where these like very particular blacksmiths like understand this energy and how to use it. It's just there's context and world building around it that this is not interested in. So just him going like, whoop, whoop, guess this thing's here to generate it for me.
It's like a soda machine when you push the buttons there and you're like, oh, I combine this with this and then I get this special thing. Okay. Yeah. So that's kind of the big thing there. I didn't watch I watched this on HBO Max. There's an option for the extended cut and then the regular. I didn't watch the extended cut of it. I don't know exactly what extra stuff it adds there with that.
I have seen it before, but I don't remember really what is extended about it. Not any of the space stuff, which is what should be extended.
And this movie, I think it's remarked for, I mean, obviously, how poorly it was, but also the cast of this movie as well. I mean, these people went on to do a lot of other comic book movies, not only just Ryan Reynolds there, but this movie also had Taika Waititi, who's the minority best friend in this.
He's irritating as shit.
Almost, yeah. I mean, I guess he hasn't changed. I mean, he still has that thing about him there with this. He's in there. He's the best friend of him. He works as the engineer for the Ferris company there with that.
Yeah.
And obviously he went on to do Korg and Thor Ragnarok, and he directed it. He directed Love and Thunder as well with that.
I think this is the worst thing he's done still. Or maybe that Free Guy movie.
Free Guy's pretty rough.
I never actually saw it, so I'm assuming, but
yeah. There was that. Then also you had Michael Clark Duncan, who's done other superhero. He was Kingpin in the Daredevil one as well there. So you had him in that as well.
He's the best part about that movie.
Yes, he is the best part of that. Angela Bassett, who went on to be in Black Panther, who's the mother of T'Challa in that. So she went on to do that.
Should have been Storm in like 2000.
How old was she in 2000, Angela Bassett?
I don't know, but she had to at least be in her late 20s.
Yeah. Yeah, so missed opportunity. Missed opportunity for that. I think it says here she was 42 in 2000.
God, wait, how old is she now then? Damn, she looks good.
She was born in 1958.
Wow.
Yeah, so she was born then, and she's 67 right now.
Well, I could have believed her as in her 20s at the time. So
yeah. So she went on to obviously be Black Panther's mother there, T'Challa's mother, and Black Panther there. So that was kind of a big thing. Like I said, big kind of tension between Ryan Reynolds, Martin Campbell. That was kind of a big thing in the movie there.
I blame a lot of this on Greg Berlanti, and I forget what the other writer's name is.
Mark Guggenheim as well was on.
Yeah, Mark Guggenheim. The two was Greg Berlanti and Mark Guggenheim, because they not only did they do this, then they stewarded the CW universe, which I cannot stand for like a decade that had to exist, or 15 years or whatever it was.
Another person who also was with them was Michael Green there. Now he's done some good stuff. I'm looking at it, a lot of his stuff there. He's co-written several feature screenplays. Logan, he did Alien Covenant, but he also did Blade Runner 2049. He did that. So he also did that.
Much better track record than Greg Berlanti or Mark Guggenheim.
Yeah. And I think at this point, I forgot to mention that Jack Black was also considered to do. They were going to do that as well with that.
And that was going to be like a whole different movie that would have been like a full-on stoner comedy version of Green Lantern, which part of me kind of wishes that they had made that just to see what it would have looked like.
Robert Smigel was going to be the one who's going to write and direct that. People don't know Robert Smigel. He used to do those sketches on SNL, the TV Funhouse thing, or like the incredibly gay duo or something like that. He used to do that with that, and then he also was on Conan. He's the voice behind the Insult Comic Dog.
Oh,
Behind that as well. He's written the two Hotel Transylvania films there. with that as well. So he's done some decent stuff there. So he's been a long time. Yeah. But yeah, they were gonna do like a action comedy version of that Green Lantern with
It
that.
might have been better. I mean, considering what this turned out to be.
Yeah. So what will be your final thoughts rating there, Sage, for Green Lantern 2011 there?
Oh man, I mean, yeah, this movie is a fucking disaster, man. It does so many things wrong. The few little bright spots in it, they don't make up for much, but I can admit that they're there. So it's not like the single worst comic book film I've ever seen. But it is definitely getting low on the list. I'd give this a burn it, especially being a big fan of this particular comic. It bothers me to no end that this is sort of, up until right now with Superman and this show, maybe we'll turn that around. But like this movie was sort of created the entire perception of Green Lantern within a more mainstream public. And I wouldn't like Green Lantern either if this is what I thought it was like.
Do you think the Latin battery, what about that? You think that looks better than what we get in the TV show?
No.
Okay. People were saying the Latin battery looks better, but
that looks terrible.
okay. Wow, burn it. Yeah, I mean, back in the day, I mean, 2011, I mean, you had a lot of stuff that hit because this was only a few years after Dark Knight came out. And
I want to say that X-Men First Class, Thor, and Captain America all came out this year.
I believe you are correct. Yeah, 2011. Yeah, I think that was First Class, which also hit really well there. But it's thinking like, hey, we getting 2 steps ahead in these comic book movies, and then it'll be something like this that pulled you right back down and go like, nah, it's still there. And still, you still get some bad ones every now and then, like Thor: Love and Thunder. I mean, speaking about Taika Waititi who's in this, you still have kind of some of those things like that. But it's way harder now to do a bad one of these than you did before because the formula is out there so much.
The Flash outdid it just a couple of years ago.
Yeah, the Flash, that was also really bad. So there was an example of that. Yeah, so I'd give it for the stuff I mentioned, for the stuff, a little bit of stuff on Oa, for Jeffrey Rush, Michael Clark Duncan, Mark Strong as Sinestro, who I think do really well. I'd give it like a low stream it for that there. I'd give it like a low stream it for my ability there with that. But like I say, he went on to do something good, Deadpool there. Did you like when they did the Oath? Did you think that was pretty good?
I don't know. The delivery of it didn't really. Again, it's another one of those things that I feel like it can be hard to sort of make not seem too cheesy in live action, and I think it comes off as too cheesy here.
So this is where he does the Oath here, and this is when he's fighting Parallax.
I feel your fear growing.
And by the way, I forgot to mention the voice of Parallax is Clancy Brown, who obviously has been in many superhero adaptations before there.
And I love Clancy Brown, but even as a casting thing, I don't know if that fits. I would go for more of a Starscream sort of voice for something like Parallax.
He does look like kind of a Starscream type person.
You will be dead soon.
Bright is dead. Black is
And when you're gone, I'll destroy everything you ever loved.
no evil. Shall escape my sight.
Your family, your home, your planet will be no more.
Those who worship evil's
The
might.
entire human race will be wiped out because you, Hal Jordan, were afraid.
Beware my power. Green Lantern's life.
Yeah, you don't like that triumphant moment?
I don't think it works at all.
Wow.
He's trying. I can see on his face he's trying to deliver that dramatically. I can't give him no effort, but it's not coming together as a moment.
Do you think it can work in live action? Or you think it's too corny to work in live action?
I think it can work in live action, but I think having it be like I'm about to lose and here's my power surge before I beat the villain moment, I don't think it's good for that. I think it should feel more of a pre going into battle military quote. I think that's how you sell it in live action.
Okay, gotcha. But yeah, you had that there with that big moment, and like I said, he's been a good sport about it, and he was happy when this movie flopped. This movie, so on a budget of like this had a big budget, especially for 2011. This was pretty big. Had a budget reportedly of $200 million, and the box office was $220 million.
So it basically broke even.
Yeah, but I mean,
Not
if you,
even really.
so yeah, so bad kind of showing for that one there. And yeah, so due to that, they kind of scrapped the whole kind of thing, and then they kind of restarted with the whole Zack Snyder DC universe with Man of Steel, which came
Yeah,
out.
they left Green Lantern out of that entirely.
Yes, they did, and this kind of has put like a stain on Green Lantern for a long time because there hasn't been a Green Lantern movie since. Even 15 years later, we're just getting a TV show of it. You know what I mean? I mean, there's been animated movies and things like that,
Yeah.
but nothing on
which
the
is
scale.
inherently just an easier form to sort of bring this to life in, because again, a lot of it, I think it's easy to make it corny.
Yeah. But it's got some good memes and moments like this one right here.
God damn, that's beautiful.
You're welcome, Canada.
Yeah. I got that. So it's probably the best outcomes of this movie there.
For sure.
So you give it a burn it, I give it a low stream it for Green Lantern 2011 there. Very, very good stuff there.